Hello everybody, welcome back to another WyattzWorld Extra. Today's video we are going to continue the WWE trend. We are going to continue the WrestleMania season trend by me giving you the top 10 worst WWE/World Champions I've ever had to sit through. And when I mean bad or worst, I don't mean heel. I mean they were legitimately boring champions, or they just didn't serve their purpose to me. There is going to be some hot takes on here. There's probably going to be some pretty reasonable takes on here. Head over to gfuel.com, use code WyattzWorld, save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products. And let's get into my top 10 least favorite WWE World Champions ever. Okay, so before we start, I do want to tell you guys this is kind of in an order. 10 being, okay, they weren't that bad, and number 1 is my least favorite champion of all time. So there is kind of, a line to this. Anyway, starting off with number 10, I'll take the heat. I got Dean Ambrose. I did not like it when he was champion at all. He didn't fit it to me. He didn't fit the world champion material. I don't know if it's his character, his gimmick, but to me, it always seemed like he just never gave a shit. He always looked bored. He always looked annoyed. And if he was gonna win the title, the way he won it kind of stunk. He won it by cashing in on Seth Rollins, which I get is poetic, but it didn't give him any sort of convincing background that he could have actually won a title on his own. I know WWE scripted. I'm just saying, I did not care for the couple months Dean Ambrose was the champion. I like Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley. I think he's a much better champion in AEW than he was in WWE. I just think at the time it was not right. And now it is time for number 9, Alberto Del Rio. This guy was awful. I didn't like him as a heel champion. I didn't like him as a face champion. I didn't like him. I thought he sucked. Came out every week, said the same exact thing on the microphone, then Redrago or whatever the fuck his stupid stooge's name was, would scream his name as loud as he could, and then some way, somehow, Alberto Del Rio would cheat to win. It was like the Roman Reigns bloodline, except with a stale character. I hated his character, hated his gimmick, hated him as a champion, hated watching him in WWE, and I'm so happy I never have to see him again. And yeah, he held the WWE title, the world title multiple times. Any time he was near it, I was furious. That was a Vince McMahon project that was forced down our throats and spit right back in his face. And that'll bring us to number 8. It is Mark Henry. Listen to me. It was cool seeing Mark Henry finally win a world title in WWE, but it wasn't cool that it was so late in his career where he was so slow and boring to watch. Never did I watch a Mark Henry match and I'm like, this is really good stuff. All of them were me like this. The guy moves at the pace of a turtle, man. I remember when he beat, I think it was Orton for the title, I just couldn't wait until it was off of his waist. And I just, seriously, I just waited, and I think it was Daniel Bryan who ended up taking it off of him. Really think that WWE should have given him a run 10 years sooner than when they did. Okay, now it's time for number 7, and it is the Big Show. Another guy that they just gave a bunch of runs to way too late in his career. Why? He held the world title, I want to say 2 or 3 times, but they weren't long periods, but either way, it was just terrible anytime he was the holder of it. The fans would literally chant, "Please retire," in the middle of every match throughout the last 5 years of his career, but yet they gave him the world title. Nothing about it was good at all, other than the fact that maybe it gave him a proper send-off for his career. But no offense, Big Show, any of the world titles that you held in the last 10 years of your career was absolute horseshit television. Speak of a boring wrestler, oh my god. Shut up! And after the Big Show, we are coming in at number 6. It is King Booker. Not Booker T, King Booker. For those who remember this title run, I think it was in 2007 or 2008. Dude, he was just boring. He was so boring. He would come out every week and William Regal would read this stupid scripture that would take 10 minutes, and all he would say is, "All hail King Booker, all hail King Booker." And then King Booker would talk, but he would talk in the tone of a king, and it would be all slow with an accent, World title, I need a shot. And then they let him beat Rey Mysterio, and it was the same thing for, I think, 3-4 months that he held it. It was just so ungodly boring. Why they didn't let Booker T win the world title at WrestleMania 19, I will never understand. We talked about that yesterday. They clearly tried to make it right in 2007, and I hated every second of it. King Booker, you were awful. All right, and that'll bring us to number 5. This is gonna piss some people off, and honestly good, because it's The Fiend. He sucked. I did not like The Fiend for a second. I honestly don't even really like Bray Wyatt. I think he's really boring right now too, but The Fiend was awful. You couldn't see his matches because they had that stupid red light on. He had about 4 moves in his arsenal, and one of them was him just like holding his hand over your face. Like, it was seriously such a god-awful gimmick and champion that I can't believe it lasted as long as it did. Now, I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? The Fiend was great. You're so stupid. It's okay to disagree. That's fine. But I personally thought it was one of, if not the worst parts of WWE television over the last 5 years. All right, on to number 4, Jack Swagger. Nobody knows why he won the title to this day. It was such a weird push. Won the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26, cashed in the following Friday, won the title, and I think it was off of him by the summer? There was no reaction to it at all. Like, he would come out and the crowd would be silent. He could say insults, he could say good things, it didn't matter. Nobody reacted to the guy because it was so out of fucking pocket. Sports fans, I'll put this into NFL terms for you. Imagine putting AJ Dillon on the Madden front cover. That is essentially what Jack Swagger winning the world title was. It was that random. Did nothing for the company, did nothing for his career. Everybody's forgotten he was even a champion. And other than his match with Randy Orton at Extreme Rules in the Fatal 4-Way where he lost the title, I have no recollection of that reign at all. It was pointless. And that takes us to number 3. It is the Great Khali. This was a Vince McMahon moment if I've ever seen one. Big tall guy who has muscles, why not make him the champion? The only issue was the Great Khali was literally so big he couldn't move, he couldn't walk, he couldn't do any move besides a chop. Or he'd squeeze your head. Like, he was the worst wrestler in the history of the business still to this day. Like, he had no interaction, couldn't speak English, that's not the problem. But when it came time for him to perform, when people would pay money, every match was awful. Vince McMahon, you dumb bastard. Okay, and moving on to number 2, I really like this guy. I think he's one of the best workers in the industry, but The Miz in 2010 was arguably the worst title run I've ever seen. Hated it so much when he was the champion. He wasn't ready. It's that simple. He was not ready to be a champion. He was annoying, the fans didn't like him, the people backstage didn't like him. Wasn't the best wrestler at the time, not nearly as good as he is today. It kind of felt out of pocket. Kind of like Jack Swagger, not nearly as much, but it was essentially around there. Same type of deal, won the Money in the Bank, cashed it in. Actually, The Miz has cashed in Money in the Bank twice, won the title both times, but the second time he literally held it for a day. Or maybe it was a week. Either way, in the 2010 era, I despised The Miz as champion. Now, I 100% want him to hold it because he is ready now. And that brings us to number 1, and it's not even close. You guys can probably guess it. It is Jinder fucking Mahal. I know why they did this. It was 100% clear. They wanted to drive up the market in India. So they made a guy who was from India champion. Yeah, okay, it kind of makes sense. Except Jinder Mahal was terrible. He wasn't a good wrestler. He wasn't a good talker. The only thing he did is he got super jacked and Vince McMahon got googly-eyed over him. His title reign did nothing for him. It did nothing for the company. It accomplished absolutely nothing. And also, he beat Randy Orton for it. Why is Randy Orton the victim of just handing off the belt to the worst people ever? Either way, Jinder Mahal, your reign was the worst thing I've ever seen. And if you ever go within 10 feet of a title belt again, I will never watch the product. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for my top 10 worst world champions in WWE history. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree. Let me know in the comments where you guys disagree. I have a ton of fun making these videos. I'm going to try and make them happen more regularly. But as you guys know, the drill has to happen. I'm going to get off and edit this so you guys can watch it on time. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, I will see you the next time I upload.